Bonsoir tout le monde et bonsoir Jad. Bienvenue chez Change Lebanon. On vous souhaite une très chaleureuse bienvenue malgré l'éloignement, malgré les écrans. Je vais vous présenter très rapidement Change Lebanon avant de laisser Roy vous présenter vous-même. Change Lebanon travaille pour aller droit au but pour un Liban état de droit. On a 4 domaines d'activité prioritaires. Premièrement, on essaye d'avoir une production d'expertise dans les domaines qui sont indispensables à l'évolution socio-économique de notre pays. Je vous donne 2-3 exemples: l'accès à l'énergie, l'accès à l'eau, l'accès à l'éducation, l'accès à la vie citoyenne, bien sûr, mais aussi la participation de la diaspora à la vie du Liban, à la gouvernance du Liban. Ça, c'est la première partie. La deuxième partie, c'est l'action lobbying que Change Lebanon tente de faire auprès des autorités françaises, mais aussi auprès de l'Union européenne. Actuellement, on est en train de porter un plaidoyer pour un Liban état de droit auprès de l'ensemble des états-majors des partis politiques qui se présentent à l'élection française pour essayer de peser le plus possible, le mieux possible, de faire valoir les intérêts du Liban en toutes circonstances, même si on le voit beaucoup en ce moment combien il est difficile que la communauté internationale nous écoute et nous calcule à cause de l'actualité notamment ukrainienne. Le troisième volet de nos actions sont sur le terrain, des actions humanitaires. On a pu travailler sur le lait infantile, on a pu travailler sur l'accès à l'éducation, mais dans les actions de terrain, on a aussi cette volonté d'identifier les acteurs du changement, comme vous, de les écouter, de les comprendre et de pouvoir les soutenir dans leur volonté d'agir pour un autre Liban. Et enfin, le quatrième point de notre activité est la coopération et la coordination avec les autres groupes de la diaspora. On le sait tous, c'est l'union qui fait la force. On essaye d'agir à chaque fois en coordination avec d'autres groupes. À titre d'exemple, on a pu publier des tribunes dans des médias qui sont assez importants, d'abord à 8, puis à 15 groupes. Pour nous, ce sont des choses très encourageantes. Et même si c'est compliqué, il faut qu'on continue dans cette démarche. Et aujourd'hui, on vous reçoit au nom de cette volonté de travailler progressivement pour une diaspora libanaise unie et qui puisse travailler pour le Liban d'une seule voix.
Selon Jad, c'est une position préméditée et volontaire afin d'orienter la distribution des pertes entre déposants, banques et États. Aujourd'hui, Jad a choisi de devenir candidat aux élections sur le poste de député maronite du Metn. Il s'est associé à la liste de Mouatinin ou Mouatinat fi Daoula. On pourrait dire encore un journaliste qui passe du côté observateur au côté acteur. Mais Jad était-il que observateur avant sa candidature? Jad, celui qui scrute ou déplore l'absence des programmes politiques au sein des partis traditionnels, aura aujourd'hui l'occasion de nous parler du sien.
Avec vous. So I will revert to English. It's maybe easier a little bit for me. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for the invitation and try to, first of all, begin with the diagnosis. When the whole financial collapse began in the late 2019, the central bank said that they have in their reserves 33-point-something billion. Now the BDL, the central bank, is saying they still have around $11 billion. So we spent in 2 years and a half, $22 billion approximately, on what? On nothing sustainable. During the last 5 months, the governor of the central bank, Riyad Salemi, decided to fix the exchange rate at around 22,000 Lebanese pounds for a dollar. How did he manage to do that? By spending till now around $2.5 billion to just have some liquidity of dollars in the market to stabilize the exchange rate. If you ask the BDL or any people in relation to the BDL or the finance ministry, they tell you that that is not sustainable. We still have $11 billion. We cannot spend another $2.5 billion for the other 4 next months. And then we would be deprived of our whole reserves, and then we cannot even buy medical equipment or drugs or even oil and gas for our energy and electricity system in Lebanon. So we are buying time by spending such big amounts of money that could have changed the whole apparatus of the country. The other problem relating to change is that one has to see the conditions or the condition of the opposition. We don't have any unity in our opposition. It's inconceivable that after 2.5 years, most of these opposition parties or groups also don't have any political program, any detailed political program, and just restrict themselves to general slogans. If we had the power to have a majority in the parliament, then the whole balance of power would have changed. We're not there yet. So the opposition now has two thoughts. One that is saying that the parliament is only as good as the platform it brings to you to reach out to more people, to affect the real balance of power on the ground, on how much from the population in percentage numbers are adhering to a specific and clear political program. And there is another view that we don't have the luxury of time to agree on any political program. Let's just have a coalition with different views in it, but they are unified by a sole premise that they are in opposition of this specific ruling class. I adhere to the first view because the second view was tried in 2018 through Kulluna Watani, Tahaluf Kulluna Watani, that was, for my eyes at least, a reflection of the national unity governments that we have in Lebanon, where we don't have any national unity, but it's just sticking some different views together. And as soon as the election was done with, each and every group reverted into its action as a sole player. And then when we had the 17th of October demonstrations, we had to re-ask the question, how can we bring people together, as if the elections didn't bring anyone together. We have productive sectors, let's say in food production, and we export some of this production. So the problem would be if you deal with such a banking account like any other account, then they might have in this account, let's say, $2 million. And because it's above the threshold of $500,000, they should have a severe haircut. While if this account or these $2 million were used in this productive sector that is part of the governmental plan, which would subsidize maybe the electricity or anything to help reduce the costs of these products to be able to sell them elsewhere, these kinds of accounts, deposits, are viable and shouldn't tackle or deal with hard losses, because that would mean that the productive sector that they pay for would be affected. I can say now that I am for Hezbollah handing out its armament for the state. This is not the problem. This has been said for the last 17 years. What is the roadmap that we are now proposing as a group, not me solely? That, first of all, if you don't have an imminent solution for a slogan, one should say that the issues are more complex. Because if I deal with the Hezbollah question just like as, let's say, the Lebanese forces or Kataib or whomever else is saying that, one should say that Hezbollah should hand out its armaments to the state without proposing how, through being elected in the Lebanese parliament, you are trying to reach this end. This is just a slogan to polarize people in Lebanon, specifically ahead of an election, on matters that you don't have a solution for. And that would absolve you from the duty that you have on handing out proposition that you have the ability to do. That's why I began with the economic and financial issues, because these are issues that affect all of the confessions in Lebanon and all of our society. And if we want to break up the political relations that we have in Lebanon that made of Hezbollah and the Lebanese forces and whomever, the political parties that they are, from a confessional standpoint, from this one-dimensional identity, the definition of an identity, is trying to affect the agenda setting in Lebanon with propositions that would distribute the voters. I usually use the term vertically, from a vertical standpoint, meaning us, the Maronite, are fearful of either the Sunnis or the Shia. So it doesn't have any impact on Jabran Basir or Samir Jaja if some of these constituents are depositors, employees, or employers. They don't have to answer these questions because they are trying to group people on issues that are vertical. The whole confession would move with them. What we are proposing as a roadmap is, first of all, to legitimize the state by, in the eyes of the constituents, of the Lebanese, of the citizens, by appropriating its functions. That's why we talk about the medical coverage for all. It's not just a matter of social safety net. It's just to have a relationship between the citizen and the state. For me to be able, when talking with any Hezbollah adherent, to talk rationally. Now, if the state is trying to reclaim its functions, and now it's being able to have services, and you have some interests related to the state, now you have something to lose when choosing between Hezbollah and the state. And now your confidence with this state would be restored to an extent that one would feel that it's even conceivable issue for me to leave my adherence to Hezbollah and join the project of the state. Because now, if you talk with any Hezbollah adherent, they would tell you very easily that you are proposing for us to leave Hezbollah and run with the opposition and call for Hezbollah to hand out its armament to the state, while Hezbollah made of our living in the south or the Bekaa Valley or even the southern suburbs better, and hand out these armaments to a state that we have no confidence in because it doesn't have any functions to do. It's easy to blame the state for everything in Lebanon because everyone is robbed the state from its function, while focusing on the issues that are problematic for these political structures, like how would you distribute the losses. This cuts society horizontally and not vertically, so they cannot hand an answer from a Shia premise, from a Maronite premise, from a Sunni premise. These are more problematic issues for them to deal with than having already made answers about the armament of Hezbollah. Once I have in the balance of power any weight to deal with this issue more imminently, then it would become the top of my priority for it to be the sole issue to run on in an election.
En tout cas, un grand merci. Et puis pour conclure, je pourrais aussi abonder sur ce que tu viens de dire. Effectivement, faire de la politique, c'est choisir un camp. Choisir, c'est renoncer. Faire des choix, foncer là-dedans. Donc du coup, on peut te souhaiter que beaucoup de courage, beaucoup de succès. Merci. Et un grand bravo.